All right, so we're going to talk all about trapezoids. Okay, so we're going to start off about talking about a non-isosceles trapezoid. And that's a trapezoid with only one pair of opposite sides parallel. And so remember, the parallel sides are marked with the arrows, and those parallel sides are what we call the base. So in this trapezoid, there are two bases. And then what you need to know about a non-isosceles trapezoid is that consecutive angles are supplementary. And so what I mean by consecutive angles are supplementary, I'm talking about the same side interior angles based off of the parallel lines. So if I number these angles, 1, 2, 3, 4, in this case, angle 1 plus angle 3 will equal 180 degrees. And then angle 2 plus angle 4 equals 180 degrees. Now, unlike in the parallelogram where the consecutive would look like in the spots of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 as well, because they don't have two sets of parallel lines, those are not considered consecutive angles. Okay. And then let's talk about an isosceles trapezoid. So hopefully you remember from an isosceles triangle that isosceles means there's two congruent sides. So an isosceles trapezoid has all the same properties as a non-isosceles trapezoid, plus the following. So the non-parallel sides, which are called legs, are congruent. So here they're marked congruent, and those are your legs. The diagonals are also congruent to each other. So that means this distance here is congruent to this distance here. And then it says that the base angles are congruent to each other. So remember, base angles are the angles that are touching the base. So this angle is congruent to this angle, and this angle is congruent to that angle. And then opposite angles are supplementary. So if you go across the diagonal, those will be supplementary to each other. Okay, so we're going to do 6 practice problems dealing with trapezoid. So here's the first one, and we want to find angle K and angle M. So we can find angle M because angle J and angle M would be consecutive or same side interior. So we would do 180 minus 87, and then this one would be 93 degrees. So angle M is 93 degrees. And then K and L are consecutive interior angles. So they have to add up to 180 as well. So if L is 51 degrees, that makes angle K 129 degrees. All right, so what I want you to do is pause the video real quick. You try number 2. All right, so for the second example, angle D is consecutive angle with angle A, so they have to add up to 180, and then angle C is consecutive with angle B, and they have to add up to 180. So let's look at our next example. So in this one, we want to find the value of x. Now be careful because our parallel lines have changed. It's no longer the top and bottom, but it's the two on the sides. But still, we should be able to see that these are the same side interior or consecutive interior angles. So that means they have to add up to 180. So we can get 8x plus 6 plus 54 equals 180 degrees. So then we combine like terms. We get 8x plus 60 equals 180. Subtract 60 from both sides. We get 8x equals 120. Divide by 8, and x is equal to 15. All right, so let's look at the next example. You want to find the measure of angle R. So I want you to pause the video right now and you try to answer this question. And so for this question, those two angles that were given, angle Q and angle R, are consecutive angles, so they are going to add up to 180. So I add them and set them equal to 180, and I solve for x, and I got x is 10. And in order to find the measure of angle R, I just plugged in 10 for 7x minus 13, and I end up with angle R is 57 degrees. All right, so let's look at this next example. It says if MNOP is an isosceles trapezoid, MP is equal to 16x minus 13, NO is 9x plus 8, PN is 5y plus 19, and MO is 12y minus 37. So we want to solve for x and y. So what I would want you to do is go ahead, if we know MN and PO are the parallel sides, then we know that side NO is congruent to side MP because those would be the isosceles. It's an isosceles trapezoid, and those would be the legs. So what I want you to do is go plug in all the information that you know, and then we can work from there. So first of all, in order to find x, we know that MP and NO, we gave the expression for those. And because those are the legs, they are congruent, so we can set them equal to each other. So we'll have 16x minus 13 equals 9x plus 8. And then so we're going to subtract 9x from both sides. We end up with 7x minus 13 equals 8. Add 13 to both sides. 7x equals 21. Divide by 7. X is equal to 3. So now when we're looking for y they gave us PN, which is a diagonal, and then they gave us MO, which is the other diagonal. And so in the case of an isosceles trapezoid, the diagonals are congruent. So again, we can set those expressions equal to each other as well. So we can do 5y plus 19 equals 12y minus 37. And now we just solve for y. So now 8 is equal to y, and x is equal to 3. And now our last example, where we know ABCD is an isosceles trapezoid, so we want to find each missing angle. So if AB is parallel to DC, and it's an isosceles trapezoid, I then know that AD is congruent to BC. And that means angle D and angle C would be base angles, and so they should be set equal to each other. So we have 2x plus 27 equals 5x minus 12. And then we're going to go through and solve for x. Okay, so now that we get x is 13, we need to go through and figure out what's D, what's C. So if we plug in 13, we can figure out that angle D is 53 degrees. And because D and C are congruent, also know that C is 53 degrees. So we can fill that in over here, where D and C are 53 degrees. Now we got to find A and B. Well, the relationship A and D are consecutive angles, so they should add up to 180. So we do 180 minus 53. We get A is 127. And A and B are also base angles, another set of base angles, so they're going to be congruent as well. So both of those are going to be 127 degrees. All right, and that's it. Make sure you have this in your spirals.